Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Marketing B-Sides. I'm your host, Tom Hootman, CEO and founder of Mixtape Digital. If you don't recall from the first two episodes, this is the podcast where every single last one of you is a marketer. But we set our pretensions and our imposter syndrome aside, and none of us even remotely pretend to have it all figured out or even any of it figured out, to be honest. We really want to talk about the wins, the losses, the fails, what works, what doesn't, the real stories, the authenticity, because I absolutely love authenticity more than anything in the marketing world. Today's guest is, in the spirit of my last guest, another former client, someone from the in-house side, and an all-around amazing dude who I have a ton of respect for and I've loved working with previously, Jeff Perkins. Jeff Perkins is the CEO of Soundstripe. So what's great about Soundstripe is they're a company that offers a high-quality, royalty-free library of music curated by real artists and cleared for every major platform. So when you're looking for music and you need to use it for a video, you don't have to freak out like I did when I created our announcement video and I spent way too long trying to find something. So Jeff's amazing. What I love about him is that as a client, you've had clients who were really tough and not fair, and you've had CMOs and CEOs who are super laid back and probably need to be a little less laid back. In my opinion, and I'm not just blowing smoke, Jeff has that balance figured out. He has a wonderful approach. He's, in my opinion, very down to earth, very pragmatic, approachable, and also has very high standards. So he held us accountable. And at the same time, I knew I could go to him with anything if there was anything out of the ordinary. We talk a lot about the industry as a whole and his perspective, because he spent many years as a CEO or a CMO. And I first met him back when he was with Park Mobile, where he was CMO and then CEO years ago. And more than anything, we spent a lot of time talking about something that I admire about Jeff. And the reason why I'm out there doing one-take stupid videos every day is that he has curated an amazing LinkedIn presence it's informative, it's topical, has the right blend of like personal, family, business perspective, so that you don't feel like you're getting nothing but random stories like me. You're also getting a great POV and insights into the industry, insights from his seat, insights into how he's just constantly running. But overall, I really wanted to dive into like how he crafted this presence, how he manages it, and how he got to this point. Because in my opinion, he was doing this. You probably already follow him on LinkedIn, because he's been doing this on LinkedIn for ages and ages and ages. And I think he's got a lot of it figured out. So take a listen. It's a great episode. We touch on a lot. And I had a lot of fun chatting with him. So check it out. And by the way, I would love it if you sent me feedback on the podcast. Please subscribe, download it, burn it to CD, then record it to a mixtape. Give us a good rating. Give us a bad rating. Give us a rating. I promise I won't cry for too long. All of your feedback matters. If there's a guest out there that you want us to interview, hit me up on LinkedIn. Shoot me a DM. Shoot me an email. Text me if you have my number. No guest is too big. I'm not scared to go knock on anyone's door. But enough about that. Let's get to the episode. Thank you for making time for me. You and I have known each other for, goodness, the Park Mobile days. So, we're on a decade plus at this point.
That,
EGI. Yeah, it's been forever. And one of the things I wanted to I think it's like the secret sauce, for me at least, when I was at Brain Labs. I was always a guy who was on LinkedIn every day, but I was a lurker. And the most I got out there was reposting a job or reposting a Brain Labs or Hannah post and putting a little comment, because you're fearful. And when I started Mixtape, I was like, goodness gracious, I'm going to build this website. And the first thing everyone I know is going to do is going to look at it. And they're all marketers and we all love to be like pessimists. So I think the secret, the thing people were scared of and I was scared of was how do I put myself out there? And I got great advice from my team and people in my network who were like, dude, you just be you, man. That's the thing. And honestly, you inspired me, because you've been doing that forever, right? And I think you've got the right mix. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. You've got the right mix of business, personal, self-challenges, things you're running into. So there's a bit of build it with me. There's a bit of sharing great stories from your family, as well as the fact that you run way too much and you're constantly challenging yourself. What made you start? Were you always like that? Or were you like me and you're like, this platform could be so much cooler. Here's what I'm going to do to impact.
Yeah, I've been posting a lot on LinkedIn for a long time. And I think early on it became out of career necessity for me. So I was working at this company here in Atlanta called Auto Trader. I started there in 2007. 5 years later, I think I had grown my career there a lot in that I grew the size of my team and my responsibilities, and I had, just great relationships across the organization and great exposure, and they paid me reasonably well. But the thing that hadn't grown was my title. And so I started in 2007 as a senior marketing manager, and then by 2013, I was still a senior marketing manager. And
Yeah.
at that point, I just realized there wasn't a path up for me. And I was heads down, and I was just doing good work. And the company, I think, recognized that, and they kept giving me more responsibility, but they never ever sort of right-sized my title. And to me, I would look around at my peers who are now becoming VPs and CMOs, and I was like, man, I've got a bigger team than they do. I have more budget. I have more responsibility, and I'm stuck here as a senior manager. And I just realized, I was like, I think I hit the ceiling here from sort of a path up perspective. And so either I had to get comfortable with the idea that I'm just going to stay here for my career and ride it out, and I'm fine. I don't care about a title,
Uh-huh.
but I had always aspired to be a CMO. And I thought, it's not going to happen here, but maybe I could make a move and get on that path elsewhere.
Mm.
And so I started, put my resume together. I started talking to recruiters, and I started dropping my resume for jobs, and nothing was happening for me. And what I realized was I had this senior manager title, but I was going for a VP of marketing job. And everyone's like, well, Jeff, you can't get a VP of marketing job. You're a senior marketing manager. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do a lateral move and I'll go take another senior manager role, but there'll be more upward opportunity. And so I started applying for, senior manager jobs. And they're like, well, how much do you make? They're like, whoa, we can't pay you that to be a senior manager. And so I couldn't get a senior manager job because I made too much money. I couldn't get a VP of marketing job because I didn't get the title. And so I'm totally screwed, right? It's
Yeah.
this crazy catch-22. And I was like, what do I do? And it kind of dawned on me at that point, it's the old saying, you don't define yourself, somebody else will. And I was clearly letting recruiters, hiring managers define me by my title. And the reality was I had 5 years of great stories to tell, business results to kind of share, great projects that I worked on that drove real results that I could share. And I said, I just got to tell people like what I can do and who I am. But you can't just do that, right? You have to find forums for that. And so I remember I went on LinkedIn one day and I changed my title. I think my title was just like marketing manager at Auto Trader. I changed it to executive leader.
Smart.
Because I was like, all right, I'm a marketer. I need to reposition myself. And I started getting in the habit of posting content that an executive leader would post about team building and leadership and business results. And I started posting a lot. And then I wrote a blog and I committed. I was like, I'm going to write one blog post a week for a year. And so I wrote, 52 blog posts. It's very hard to do, actually, especially
It's
back then we didn't
impossible.
have Chat GPT to basically,
No.
generate tonnage of crappy blog posts. So I
You
was
gotta
actually
sit down and
sitting
you gotta be like, what am I gonna write about this week?
yeah, it's like, oh,
Yeah, you
man.
can't.
And sometimes like I always had to get like publish on Monday morning. So I was like Sunday night, I was like, all right, I got to get my 500 words done. What am I going to write about? So I started writing a blog, and then I started reaching out to people who were organizing marketing events around the city. And, I remember because I would always get solicited, come see this marketing event that, the AMA is putting on or that AMA is putting on. And so I remember reaching out to the event organizer and because they showed the event and the topic, but they didn't show who was speaking. And I reached out and I was like, oh, who's speaking at your event? They're like, well, do you want to speak at our event? We're looking for speakers. I was like, is that how this works? I thought there was like VIP list of speakers that kind of you call but no. And then I realized like a lot of websites have this call for speakers link on it. And if you want to speak at an event, you just fill out, call for speaker, and you could actually, you may get selected to speak at the event. So I was like, well, I like that. That's a great way to sort of get out there. So I was writing a blog, I was speaking at events, and I was posting on LinkedIn. And really within, just a couple months, I started noticing recruiters calling me because they had heard of me or they'd seen something I posted or someone referred them to me because they saw me speak at an event. And it was like eye-opening. I was like, oh, okay. So, and they weren't calling me because they were looking for a senior manager. They were looking for an executive leader, as I called myself on my LinkedIn profile.
It's
And
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, it's a great example. And I tell a lot of people this, if your LinkedIn kind of reads like your resume, you're kind of doing it wrong. LinkedIn is sort of a branding positioning tool for you as a professional.
Huh?
So if you want to just be known as senior manager at Auto Trader, yeah, you can put that up there. But if you want to really tell people who you are, what you're all about, and what you could bring to a potential company, you gotta go a little deeper than that. You gotta really build out your profile and tell people what you've done and make it a narrative. That's one thing. If you look at my LinkedIn, it's a narrative story of my jobs, not just, I was at this company.
Responsibilities.
Yeah, here are my responsibilities. Yeah, and so that changed a lot of things for me. And so then I really I kept doing it though. I kept just posting on LinkedIn, and it was amazing because I really grew my network, and it's helped me hire a lot of people. It's helped me find jobs when I've needed jobs. It's helped me get ideas for things that I could be doing or should be doing that'll help me get results. I found it's a bit of a an unlock for me as a professional, having that resource. And there's a lot of cringe stuff on there too, and it can be annoying as a platform, but on the whole, it's a great professional resource. And I think it really, and if you go in and if you contribute a lot to it, you'll probably get a lot back in return.
Yeah. So I love that. I have so many thoughts on this. Number one, you changing your title or your header. I will tell you, when I jumped out and started this, recruiters had reached out to you because you're in agencies. They're always looking to hire. And I found that like the same thing, recruiters would come to me and they kind of wanted me to rewind 8 years earlier and do that again for someone else. And they were like, you would be the great head of growth. We want you to run new biz for this agency. And I did that. I was like, I did that already. Like, even for more money, like that doesn't fill my cup at all. I always wanted to be in the C-suite. I always wanted to move forward with my career. And it was the same exact sticking points where you're like, they were like, how much do you make to do that? And it's like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm not leaving. But we want someone who, I don't know how many times I heard a recruiter would talk to me and I'd be like, here's what I want to do. And they'd be like, yeah, well, we're really looking for someone who's done that before. And I swear to you, Scout's honor, and I was never a scout, but anyway, Scout's honor, 2-3 weeks of me just changing my title to CEO and agency founder, which I am, small agency, but still, I had 3 legitimate, reputable recruiters reach out who were trying to place executives at large global agencies in their regional offices for the role that I'd always wanted based on, and I was like, and it was funny to me because I was like, all I did was change my title and my like headline. And you obviously didn't look at any of my posts to see that I've started an agency, like swooping in to see if I'm miserable already, I guess. Day 4, it's awful, isn't it? Come back. Right. And it was just like a weird experience. And I think there's a lot of LinkedIn. I think it's almost like people are ingrained, like it's a resume. It's not. Like that's how LinkedIn started. But remember, Twitter started with like eating my breakfast, right? Like how it evolves as a platform. I think the content helps dictate that. And the more people that are authentic and real and help push out, you're always going to have the cringe, but help push that out and make it something that people actually want to like use as a source to engage with other people on.
Yeah. 100%. And I'm a fan of, at work, I bring my whole self to work, right? And most people do. Most people come to work and they're not just all business all the time. You come in, you may have a coffee with your coworker. What do you do then? You're talking about your family. You're talking about what you did on the weekend. That's all part of your professional life, that personal part. And so I always think, well, why not share some of that on LinkedIn? And now LinkedIn's not, it's not Facebook or Instagram. You have to be careful with it, right? You can't just, can't but I like to show my personal side. I like to get people to know me a little bit beyond just I'm a, CEO of a company. I actually, I have kids. I like going to concerts. I run. And I don't even need to always tie it back to business lessons. Sometimes it's just wanting to share a little bit more of myself with the community that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And so, I think the key is just it's probably some moderation of it. Like, how much do you do? You don't want to just see LinkedIn become, a stream of, puppies and kids, right? But every now and then, I think of it as just sprinkling it in, right? It's like I want to, the majority of my posts are about business, either what's going on at my company, what are trends I'm seeing, what are leadership lessons I'm learning. But then every now and then, it's a little bit of a pattern disruption, right? It's like, oh, there's my kids, or there's a puppy I'm fostering, or it breaks it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're only ever sharing, here's the latest PDF insight from my team that we built on the industry, it becomes noise, right? But if
Yeah.
every once in a while there's a human interaction or there's a post that's about you, the transparency is good. You have to have the EQ though to know the balance between puppies and children all day long versus something that, and also I do believe that there's a lot of, on the agency side, there are a lot of executives who are very I see it all day long, and they're brilliant, amazing people, but in their heads they think they have to post subject matter expertise at like a platform level.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of posts that are like, here's like a really specific descriptive LinkedIn campaign we ran, and it's like, I don't think you run like your team, like someone else did that. Like, it's okay to be the executive, say, here's something cool my team did. And I mean, I asked our director of growth marketing about a month in. I was like, can I start talking about what we do? And I was told no. It was like, everyone knows what you do. Everyone knows what Mixtape does. The second you pivot to like anything specific or tactical, it's not you. Like, people are going to stop and watch your content about because they're interested to know what the business does, how you're doing, build it with me. Here are the things that an agency founder runs into. And I think similar to that, your content, even when you post about work, has a human element to it. That's like, here's what I see, and here's something that means a lot to me in my seat, because they don't get that from a CEO normally. Like, it's really easy to turn your job into press release central.
Yeah. And I worry a lot that sometimes I do that if I'm just constantly, you just can't be a shill for your company 24/7 on the platform, right? People will just get worn out. It's not that interesting. And even if you are promoting your company, I always try to do it from a lens of like, okay, if I'm sitting and like just looking in the feed, is this going to be interesting to me assuming I don't work at the company? So I always try to take it a step further and not just look at this press release about this thing that we launched. No, it's like, it's kind of going a little bit deeper into, what I like about it and why we built it, and a little, kind of giving a little bit more context and flavor than you just get out of a media article, right?
Yeah.
And then shout outs to the team that built it. And so then you're, which is always nice to give attaboys in a public setting to your team that's worked hard on some of the different things we're working on.
Yeah. I mean, my personal favorite is when my team posts something that they're proud of that they've done. I love reposting it because there's an element of like, awesome, I want to tout you for a second. And also, you wrote it for me. Like, thank you for writing this, because I can add 3 sentences, because I don't want to go on and on and on. I want to be like, Elliot and Taylor are amazing. Look at what they did. I'm so proud of them. And I can hit post and be like, okay, cool. I'm cool for a couple hours, and like move on from there.
Unfortunately, LinkedIn does not do a good job surfacing those posts. That's a major complaint I have with the platform, is that if you repost somebody else's content, it never gets engagement. It never shows up.
Is that recent? For some reason, has it been like that forever? I can't remember.
It's been like that for a long time, because I've tried everything with LinkedIn, and generally I always tell people, don't even bother reposting. You're better off taking a screenshot of the post and uploading it as a photo or a PDF, and just be like, and writing your own post about it. Just because for some reason the LinkedIn algorithm as it sits today just devalues reposts, which makes you question like, well, why do you have reposts if you suppress it and don't serve it up for people to see? But I look a lot at the analytics of my posts, and generally there's no gaming the system. I think the system is so random that you don't really know. True. I mean, unless you do an extraordinarily hot take that is going to have a little bit of controversy to it, or you do a celebration type post. Those are the two, hot take and celebration, you will get a lot of engagement on. Everything else, I don't know. It's all a crapshoot. Like, sometimes I post something, I think it's a meh post, and it gets 12,000 views. Other times I post something that I'm really thoughtful about and it gets 500 views. My all-time highest impression post. It was just a random, like on some days I like to try to do a little humor. And so I get a lot of people that come up to me and they either say to me, "Who do people tell you look like?" Or they say, "Or are you this guy?" So there's a guy, I don't know if you can guess who it is, or maybe you saw my post about
I
this.
saw your post. I can't remember who you said it was, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Scott Galloway, who's
Yeah.
he's got a bunch of podcasts, NYU professor. He's another tall guy, bald with glasses.
With great marketing insights, by the way, you and him both.
Great marketing insights. And so I did a post and I put a picture of us next to each other. I just wrote how I've been able to track the rise of his celebrity and success based on how many more people come up to me and ask me if I'm Scott Galloway. And it was just a cute post. And it was like, yeah, I posted on a Friday. Fridays usually I reserve for more humorous or just like lifestyle type posts. And like right away, it went up to like 10,000 impressions, like right away. And people are laughing and they're like, "Oh yeah, I always think you look like Scott Galloway." And so it got some good engagement. And then Galloway comments on it.
I was going to ask.
Yeah. So he comments, he goes, "Oh, people are always coming up to me and asking me if I'm Jeff Perkins. Mystery solved." It was really good. It's a
great comment.
And then once he commented, the thing just went crazy. I mean, at last I checked, it was over 500,000 impressions on that post, several hundred comments. I mean, my whole LinkedIn inbox was like flooded with people trying to sell me MarTech and sales tech and accounting software.
Yeah.
After that, but it was fun. I've never had a post that had that much engagement before, though.
How do you? I mean, one thing I realized is that my volume of like posts was 0, and now it's maybe 100 versus 0. You have to get. How do you stay on top of it? Like you have to get so many requests. And I'm starting to turn into one of those people who is like, if I don't know you and you're very clearly trying to sell me something, I'm sorry, but like I've got to like filter my I want my network to be genuine, because you also get people who say, "Hey, do you know this person?" And I go look them up and I'm like, "No, they tried to sell me something like 6 years ago." How do you manage all of that noise that comes into you when you wake up every morning? I'm sure you're like, "Oh goodness."
Yeah, if you're in my LinkedIn inbox, you're not getting a response. It's unmanageable as a tool. Like it boggles my mind they haven't done a better job helping you filter through messages and figure out servicing what's important. And I'd say when people try to connect with me, I mean, it's probably under 10% of the people who send me a connection request I actually accept, because it's all just random people who want to try to sell me offshore, and engineering
resourcing,
services,
remote
HR,
exec admin. Yeah. Every day.
And so I like actually, I was flying back to Atlanta today, and an activity I sometimes do on the plane is I just clear out my LinkedIn inbox invites.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 250 and I kind of got it down to 0, but I think I accepted maybe 10 to 20 of the 250 that had wanted to connect.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
just
a mess.
I followed up with someone who got lost in the shuffle. Someone who I legitimately knew and wanted to like talk to, who I hadn't talked to, and for some reason we hadn't connected. And I was cleaning out my inbox and I was like, oh, holy shit. And I am so sorry. Like there's so many of these. Let's talk next week. And it was like, 10 days old. So it was
happens to me all the time. I feel so horrible.
And you're just like, I'm so sorry. It's literally a dumpster fire over here. And I've started telling people, I used to tell people, hit me on LinkedIn because that was easier, because it got more of my attention. And now I've turned back into an email guy where I'm like, I use my email as an inbox to a certain extent. If you email me, I will not delete it and I will snooze it. And then you can nudge me on it. And like, I will probably follow up on that faster than I would on a LinkedIn connection request, which is crazy because it's the opposite of how it was a decade ago.
Yeah. I'm happy to connect with people on LinkedIn, but yeah, it's a horrible messaging platform.
Yeah.
Even I've tried lots of different campaigns on LinkedIn. They've never worked.
Yeah. You're right about the algorithm though. You're right about like the 3-week-old posts coming back, like, and the fact that if you repost something, like those are sticky things that like someone maybe eventually will address, but also with all the noise I see and all the activity, probably not a real high priority right now, because LinkedIn's getting what it wants, right? Like views and impressions and interactions and connection requests, they don't care.
Yeah. I mean, it's on the whole though, I think it's a great platform. It's a great social network. It's very positive, which is very different than a lot of the other social networks too, which I enjoy. And I like that there's no anonymity to it. who these people are for the most part. You can't
That's a
just set
great
up a
point.
LinkedIn profile without, just as a random,
Yeah.
which is great. And even, I mean, I really try to keep my LinkedIn pure when it comes to political, what I call incendiary political type content. That because there's plenty of places to get that. All right. And so
Yeah.
every now and then what happens
Somebody.
is somebody likes something that was political and it shows up in my feed, and immediately he's gone from my network because I'm just not having it.
That's a good rule
So
of thumb. Same thing.
yeah, so my LinkedIn's very pure. It's like it's great. It's all business related stuff, leadership, how to grow the company, how to, be a better team member. I just get a ton of value out of it every
Yeah.
day.
I think of it in terms of like business Instagram. Like I like Instagram because it's like awesome. You went to a destination wedding and cool. Like I love your pets and like your kids look amazing. Then there isn't really like the diatribe hasn't sunk in. Like there's some of that, but it's really easy to be like, nope, I'm done.
Yep.
LinkedIn's a bit of the same way where it's the first place someone goes if unfortunately they're in a position where they're looking for a new role. And I see people all the time, and this is a crazy time in the market where there's a lot of people in marketing who are looking for roles. And I've made it a mission to try to like help as anyone I can. And because it's like more genuine than it's like these are genuine interactions and people who legitimately need help. It's not someone bitching about something they don't agree with in terms of the government. And it's like
Right.
the incendiary is a great term for it. I haven't seen very many like straight incendiary. You have to kind of like, okay, there's some subtext and you think you're being cute and subversive. We know what you're trying to do here. I'm not going to interact with this and this is going to go away.
Yeah, no, I've seen some of the same stuff you would see on Twitter has made its way over to LinkedIn. But if you're not following or engaging with those people, it's not going to show up in your feed. And so that's the big thing there. And if it does show up in your feed, I found there were like 3 people in my network, three of my connections that liked a lot of that stuff. And so it would end up coming in. And the reason it would come in is because it would just get very, very high engagement in that part of LinkedIn where people are posting things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to unfollow those people. And once I did, that content totally went away. So I haven't seen anything political at all in the last several months. And if I do, I always make sure who's the one that liked it
Yeah.
or commented on it that's in my network, and that person probably has to go because it's just not what I'm here for.
Yeah. I mean, I think the theme of like the first, like this conversation is like, you have to curate your network. Like you get what you put in, garbage in, garbage out. And like, if you do unfollow someone or you remove the connection, it's a pretty pure platform that way. Like you're not going to see that stuff again.
Yeah.
You said
I've
something.
Actually, yeah, and I've reached out to people before. During COVID, especially, there was a lot of conflict on the platform. There was more conflict on the platform, I think, just around what was happening with COVID, and it was very business centric. It was probably it had a political element to it, but debates around going back to work versus, or should people wear masks in the office. I mean, those are business related conversations that we were having. And I remember I had posted about a topic related to that, basically around I was hearing stories of managers telling their employees, and this was really early days of COVID where everyone was sent home, right?
For 2
But
weeks.
I was hearing people telling me like, well, my boss is going into the office every day, but he's like, well, I'm going to be in there. You don't have to come, but I'm going to be in there. And I was like, well, that's not a good message to send to the team. Like if you want to go in because you just need a quiet place to work, I get it. But I was hearing a lot of people posting about how the bosses are basically forcing people to come back to work, even though they weren't comfortable, even though some of them had pre-existing conditions, even though some of them may have had issues with other family members at home where they were concerned about maybe bringing the virus into the house. And this was a time when you just didn't know a ton. There were no vaccines. And I think I did a post about how managers need to be more sensitive and really, not force people who are not ready to come back. And that was the gist of the post.
I'm sure it got a lot of level-headed responses.
Well, it got some level-headed responses, and then it kind of went down the rabbit hole of what is typical sort of like Twitter bile where people just yelling at each other and nothing was very productive. But I remember there was a guy on the post who was just the worst, and he was just trolling everybody and he was relentless. And I was like, who is this? I didn't know who he was. I was like, who is this guy and why is he doing this? And it was Like, doesn't he understand this is a professional platform? Like, even
Mhm.
if you have a strong point of view,
Yeah.
be professional. This is, LinkedIn is like being in your office. You're not going to like be in your office going crazy politically about people, right?
Mhm.
It's not how you would behave. And this guy was going crazy. And then I looked at his, LinkedIn profile, and guess what he has in his picture? Open to work. And I reached out to him. I was
Of
like,
course.
dude, listen, I know you have freedom of speech. I'm not going to shut that down. I'm happy for you to, keep the debate going. I would just advise you to be sort of like careful with what you post, because you're looking for a job. Your prospective employers are going to be looking at what you post on LinkedIn. It's very public, and they'll kind of see the stuff. And even if they agree with you, they're going to probably think, well, this guy's kind of a jerk. He doesn't really fit our culture. We're going to
Yeah.
pass.
It's the first thing we do, right? When you're hiring
Right.
someone, is like you look and see, and you're like, okay, like it's a window into their day to day and their POV on business and
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So you sent this person a message.
I did. I did.
Did you get a response?
Uh, he told me I was the censorship police, and to go mind my own business, and I posted it, and so he has every right to. I was like, I get it.
I
I was
get,
like, that's not
yeah.
what I'm saying. I was like, all I'm telling you, my friend, is you're looking for a job right now. I would probably be a little careful with what you're posting on public forums, because it could come back and it may hurt your chances to get the job you want. I mean, it's interesting. Another post that actually got a lot of pickup. There was this trend where people were recording themselves getting fired.
I remember that. Yeah, they
This
have like
was,
the camera down
and
here, and they're looking into the, yeah.
they're talking to the hiring manager on
Mhm.
Zoom, and they're recording the whole thing, and then they post it on LinkedIn. And I wrote a post, and I said, I totally get the pain you're going through getting fired. That is a terrible, like I've been fired. I've had to fire people.
It
There's a
sucks.
ton of pain. It's the worst. But you are really going to harm your chances of getting your next
I remember
job
that post.
by doing this.
I remember that post.
And a lot of people thought that was a bad take. Like, a lot of people, and I thought it was, I stand by that though. I mean, who would ever hire somebody who recorded their previous employer firing them and then posted that on social media? Like, there's liability with that as a business. It would be very hard to actually make the case that you would want to bring this person into your organization. It's just too many red flags. And that one of the things I said in the post was like, I get it. There's a short-term dopamine hit of everybody rallying around you and supporting you and all the engagement you're getting, and, stick it to the man, and corporations are evil. And I get it, but you are harming your prospects for getting your next job. And I actually, one of the people that had posted the video, she went viral. I think she was on the Wall Street Journal, and like it was like there were tons of articles. It was really one of these things. It was like the Coldplay concert guy. It was like it took the business world by storm. It took that woman, but what happened? People didn't really track that woman after, like, what happened. It took her a very long time to get her next job. And I remember seeing a post where she was getting very desperate. She's like, I'm really having trouble. And I would probably venture to guess that she over time, she probably regretted
Yeah.
that move, because it's going to be just very hard to hire someone.
I mean, you could have two fantastic. How many times have you had two fantastic candidates who you want to hire both of them, and they're both amazing, and it comes down to these intangibles that you have to make a decision based on, and that's a huge intangible that separates you from being on the gold medal platform to silver. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
you can only hire the gold medal. And
Yeah.
probably a wonderful employee who did amazing work, there's a backlash, which is unfortunate. You had mentioned something earlier, kind of pivoting away from LinkedIn for a sec. Your goal was always to be a CMO. So I found that humorous because you're a CEO, right? So way to shoot for the moon, right? You like very much like, I want to be a CMO. You've blown through that. It's like a two-parter. What is the biggest difference, or the thing that's different about being a CEO versus the CMO, and the biggest thing that's just different for you that you never realized in being in your chair now versus before you were a CMO?
Yeah. I mean, it's a remarkably different job than being the CMO,
Yeah.
being the CEO. I think probably the thing you have to um, be aware of as you're going to come into if you take that CMO or CEO job, and I mean, it's cliche, but it's lonely at the top, right? You don't necessarily have you have to make a lot of really tough calls. I was a previous company, and my COO came into my office one day, and he said something that really resonated with me. And I don't always think about it, but he's like, listen, I know everyone comes in this office every day and they always give you bad news.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, basically, you are the person that is the receiver of constant barrage of bad news. The business results are off. There's an employee issue. We had a security breach. We're going to miss this deadline. The numbers are off. We've spent too much money. That's the life of a CEO. Is just this constant flow of bad news coming in and figuring out, all right, what are we going to do about it? And my COO came in. He's like, hey, I actually have good news. He's like, I want to share some good news with you. We've made progress on this initiative, and here's the numbers, and it's really great. But yeah, I think you just have to realize in the CEO role, you're just constantly getting punched in the face, and it's all about how do you respond to that,
Yeah.
and what do you do? And I think people who gravitate to this role, generally we have pretty thick skin, and we're able to kind of really power through a lot of the tough stuff
Yeah.
on a daily basis and get on the other side of it. And I think that's something, um, as a skill set I've always been pretty good at, is that, I don't get so down if things are going bad. I don't probably get so high if things are going good. I kind of maintain sort of a fairly level, steady demeanor throughout, because you can't get too happy and you can't get too sad, because tomorrow's a new day and new problems, and you just got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
And so that's to me is the biggest difference, because when you're in the CMO role, you're very focused on, growth and customer experience, and you obsess on it. And like, when's the new campaign going? Why, how do we eke out an extra percentage of conversion rate here? And how do we improve the reviews we're getting on G2? You're just constantly thinking about all the parts of the marketing funnel, and how do you optimize them, and how do you improve performance, and how do you tell your story in a more compelling way, and how do you kick the ass of the competitors? I mean, that's all you're thinking about, right?
Yeah.
The CEO role, maybe marketing takes, I think about marketing maybe 10 to 20% of my day. The other, 80 to 90%, I'm thinking about, all right, people operations and sales efficiency. And I'm thinking about, how do we drive growth and improve our margins? You're just thinking about so many different things. And you got to be comfortable with that context switching, but it's a very, very different role.
Yeah. I always had a theory when I first moved into marketing that if I was always ahead of growth or head of sales. You never want to report to a CEO who used to run new biz, right? Just like if you're a marketing person, you never want to report to a CEO who used to be a CMO, because they have their idea of like how it should go. And you're trying to figure out what they would do more than doing your own thing. In your opinion, do you think, like, have you struggled with that? Have you worked through that of like being the CMO, like wanting to be like, everyone get out of the way, I got this, and putting that hat back on? Are you harder on your CMO than your COO? Is it easier to be harder on them in your seat now?
Yeah, it is. Well, it's just because that's, in a lot of cases, the CEO comes up through finance operations, sometimes sales, but usually it's finance operations. They don't have as much exposure or experience on the marketing side. And I've had different CEOs that I've worked for, some that just could care less about marketing. They just want it to work. And they give you like a lot free reign to kind of do what you're going to do. Others that are more curious about it, others that are very interested, others that see marketing as just a sales, like a delivery mechanism for leads to sales. So I've worked with different types of CEOs that have had different types of perspectives on marketing. But yeah, it's going to be probably a challenge for a CMO to work for me, because I'm going to be pretty particular about
Yeah.
the brand, the storytelling, the tactics, how we're doing. If I see a social post I don't like, I'm going to screenshot it and send it
Yeah.
to my
Yeah.
marketing person and be like, hey, take this down or fix it. This is not great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's going to be tougher working for former CMO turned CEO for a lot of the marketing lead. It's just going to be, and I'm pretty transparent about that too. When people come in, is that I'm not your usual CEO. I'm going to be in your business probably a little bit more, but at the same time, I need my marketing leader to be able to be really effective. So while I'll probably be more tactical and have more comments on the brand and the advertising executions, assuming we build a strong relationship and there's a lot of trust there, that person will also have a lot of rope to go
Yeah.
do the things that they think are the right things to do.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not I'm not trying to micromanage marketing because I have enough on my plate.
well, and there's like you'd be turned
Yeah,
into a mentor of sorts, right? Like,
sure.
let me help guide you, and I'm gonna get in your shit sometimes, and I'm sorry, but like also I'm here to help.
Mm.
And if you can develop that kind of relationship where you have that communication and be like, okay, like right now I don't need you to be a CMO. You're good. Thank you. I got it. That's a good place to be, right? Like
Yeah.
it's easier.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, one of my favorite marketing leadership jobs is I worked for the CEO who he wasn't a marketer, but he was just a brilliant entrepreneur.
Uh-huh.
And he knew exactly what he wanted all of our advertising and marketing to look like. And he would come into my office and he'd whiteboard. He's like, we need an ad that's going to do this and we need to do this. And, it's for some marketing leaders, they'd just be like, I'm out. I'm not going to just be the order taker for the CEO. But what I found, and it was that when he would come with a tactical idea for marketing, he was not necessarily saying, Jeff, do this, but he was really saying, here's the problem I'm trying to solve. And here's my idea of how to solve it. But if you have a better idea, bring it to me and let's work on it. And so I used to take his
Hmm.
executional direction as more of like a creative brief. Like, okay, I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. Let me take it back, think about it, come to you with 3 ideas that really accomplish what you're looking for, but maybe do it a little bit better than you even thought it could be. And it's similar. I mean, you're an agency guy. It's similar with clients. Clients will come, Tom, we need an ad that does this and shows this and is, side by side demo and blah, blah, and you just have to take it as inputs. And you take that input and you say, well, this is what the client is asking for tactically, but strategically, this is really what they want. And let's deliver on that with
Uh-huh.
some new thinking, some new ideas that's gonna blow the client away.
Yeah.
That's the way to approach it.
Yeah. I mean, the secret to like being a good employee, a good team member, or a good agency, in my opinion, is being able to translate or decipher like the directives, the to-dos from the brief. And I've reported to CEOs, one person comes to mind who used to say, think about how we can ... And it's a very soft, like brief related, like let's brainstorm. And I realized pretty early it wasn't like that's a to-do. Like that was just
Mm.
how that person phrased their to-dos. Think about how we drive more outbound to get more active early stage prospects, higher funnel. It's like a to-do described as a brainstorm versus when the nomenclature they'd use when it was truly a brainstorm. And I think that like that's the key to being like successful and being happy and having psychological safety as an employee is like deciphering the difference between the two, because it's really easy. I don't know how many times you lose a client or a client's unhappy and they're like, well, like here's what they say, this is what we asked them to do. When in reality, they said, what we'd really like to see and what I'm
Mm.
thinking about is, and you have to be able to like, oh, okay, that's not a pebble in the shoe. That's a medium-sized rock. That's the thing we got to work on. And I think there's a bit of translation on both ends that you have to work out, both as an employer and an employee, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
I want to ask you one last question, then I promise I'll let you have your Friday so you can run or go to a concert. Probably run, knowing you, because you flew today, so I'm sure you've already got a run in you at some point. Um, every every single pitch and every single discovery call that we're on with a CEO, CMO, VPs leads with, what is your approach to AI and how can you help us solve this scary, scary world we live in and make it more comfortable? From your seat, how has AI impacted your business, and like what are you worried about when it comes to AI when you talk to your team or to your vendors or to your agency?
Yeah. What do I worry about with AI? I don't know if I worry about AI that much. What I worry about more is do we have the people that understand it and are taking advantage of it to drive more efficiency and effectiveness throughout the organization? I think that's probably the way I think about it. The AI tools out there are just so insanely powerful today. And I think back earlier in my career, of how dangerous I would have been if I had some of these tools, man. I mean, really, early on when I was at this software company and we decided we were going to do a webinar program. And it was like, all right, we got to build the content for the webinar, and then we deliver the webinar, and then I'd have to send out the video to get transcribed, and then I'd have to spend like a week in iMovie splicing up the best clips of the webinar that we could push out, and then writing the blog post and the ebook and the sales emails.
All by hand.
And you're just doing and I was really hard on myself. I was like, I want all the assets from a webinar done within a week. And so we can start to leverage those through our sales team and our marketing campaigns. And it was a lot of hard work to get that done, because you're writing everything from scratch. You have to go back and watch the webinar. It was really hard. Now there's a tool called Goldcast. I don't know if you've ever used Goldcast, but it's a webinar tool. And basically, as soon as you finish the webinar, it gives you 5 video clips, a blog post, a sales email, an ebook, infographic, all just puts it right. It's right there in front of you. I was like, man, I could have been so dangerous.
You would have,
we could have done so much with these tools back in the day. So I mean, I'm really bullish on all the AI tools. I think it's just supercharging so much great work that agencies can do for their clients. Yeah. So I think it's really bullish. I don't worry at all about, I'm not concerned about it, but I do think, companies have to become experts. We either have to hire experts or you have to hire consultants to help you build some expertise in how you could kind of fully tap the potential of these tools in your organization. Because we're really just scratching the surface of, I think, what we can do. So I think that's the big thing. I'm hearing more and more people they're hiring the AI czar for the organization. I just think it's something we're all going to have to do because these tools are so new and so powerful. And I also think if you're an agency or an organization that really goes all in on them, you'll have probably a competitive advantage on agencies that maybe don't and are still kind of just dipping their toes a bit or just, stuck on just ChatGPT to, help with, copywriting. There's so much that you can do within an organization to get more efficient and more effective. And I think it's really as a CEO, that's a big thing for me. I'm pushing. I was like, what are we doing as a company to really understand these tools and how they could impact our business. We just launched a couple of new tools recently. So one of in our business as a music licensing company, we have 58,000 audio tracks in our library. And so when we talk to our customers, what's the biggest pain? Well, what do they want? They're like, we want more music. You can't have enough music in your library. We're like, all right, we have 58,000 audio tracks. But they're like, what's the biggest challenge in using music? It's like finding music is the biggest challenge.
Yep.
They want so much music, but then it's really hard to find it. And it's in some ways it's very soul sucking, I think, for these, for the guys who are trying to figure out, all right, I got this great video. I need the perfect track. And I have to spend 5 days of my life listening to song after song to try to find that perfect track for my project. So we leveraged AI. We created an AI music supervisor. So instead of just using kind of a generic search and saying, show me, happy songs or searching by genre.
Yeah, old school hip hop-esque song.
Yeah, man. But you go into this AI music supervisor and you say, all right, I'm doing an ad about dog food. It's meant to be happy and upbeat. Give me some options. And then it'll start to kind of curate songs in our library based on what you say. And then it'll say, that sounds great. Do you want more of an EDM vibe? Do you want more acoustic? Do you want more rock? And it'll prompt you. Cool. And as you kind of fill out the prompts, it changes the songs that are surfacing. And then you go back and be like, actually, this isn't quite what I expected. Let's switch it up. Give me more hard rock vibe. That'll fit the project a little bit more. And you know what? I actually have a picture from the project. I'm going to upload this picture and it'll start to match songs to the picture you uploaded.
So you could upload a still from the actual video you took. That's cool. Yeah. That's really cool.
And it's this nice back and forth, but it's a great AI use case for us because, man, you could, what used to be sort of this really hard, you type into kind of a Google search, cinematic songs, and then you filter based on maybe the key or beats per minute or the instrument. Now you just kind of talk to somebody, basically. You talk to an agent, and the agent's going to serve up the perfect song. And we see in our metrics that people that use this solution they're getting to a download much faster than people who are going through traditional search. So it's really adding a lot of value to our user base and helping them find the right song faster.
It's amazing to me. I love that. That's really cool. That's really fucking cool. Pardon my language. But like, because I did this for our launch video and I spent days, maybe like a couple weeks trying to find like the perfect song for the launch video that no one else was going to pay attention to but me. Right. Like, and what I love about this is that it's, we've moved so fast when like, you think 30 years ago with search engines to type in what you want. What's my intent? Here's your results. And we got away from like, that's an automated old school approach. We got away from, I'm the person who's going to help you pick the right music.
Yeah.
Because we automated everything into a search engine or a search engine based search engine on a site. And we're adding back in with AI the ability to have this concierge, this curator, which resonates to me because we're all about curation and customization and helping make the scary world we're in simpler. And I think there's like this cottage industry of brands like yours, businesses like mine, who are this concierge of this crazy world we're in, because what we're seeing is so many more companies rise up who promise the moon and stars and want to deliver something and everyone's AI based, of like almost like a personal shopper, of like, I'll be your personal shopper and we're going to work in your best interest to help you figure out what's best for you. And I think there's that element that scares people about AI from using it initially. And it's like the first step's the hardest to take. The second hardest is like actually landing on something you're happy with at the end. And it helps find you that last step and the first step. Like it's someone to help kind of shepherd that process along, because everyone I know is either all in on AI and they won't shut up about it, or they're like, I use it to like refine an email and there's too many M dashes. We're still trying to figure out the in between. Similar to when I knew Reels was going to be a thing was when I was at my mom's house like several years ago. And I was like, what are you doing over there? And she's like, I'm just scrolling Reels. And I was like, oh, if moms are on it, it's over. We haven't gotten to that stage yet where moms are all about AI. Once we hit that stage, it's full bore, folks. It's over.
Yeah. But it goes back to sort of the basics of marketing, right? Which is understanding your target audience and understanding what's their pain point. And then saying, all right, well, we have this new tool called AI. How do we use that to solve the customer pain, right? And so I think that's really interesting, because you could solve much more complex customer pains today using AI than you probably could a few years ago. And that's what we're really leaning in. We want to make sure that if you're doing videos and using audio, we want to understand what the friction points are, where the bottlenecks are, what's hard about that process. And then say, all right, there are ways that you could implement, smart AI through that process to make people's lives a little easier. And if you do that, chances are they'll like your service and they'll continue to stay with you.
Yeah. It's exciting because it's turned from content creation proofreading engine into a true engine for finding solutions faster, which is exciting.
Yeah, 100%.
Jeff, thank you very much for your time, as always. And I appreciate it because for anyone listening, this man traveled and had flight delays and had to like book a hotel and then figure it out. And then I was late. You've had the patience of the Pope, my friend, and I appreciate it. Thanks for making time. It was great to catch up. It's been too long.
All right, Tom. Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for having me on the pod. Look forward to hearing the episode when it drops.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Yeah.